Welcome everyone to this week's Soulful Women in Business call. I'm so excited to be on here with you all today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kirsty Chumbley, and I definitely feel very honored to be leading this week's call. And the masterclass that I'm going to be taking you through today is called Reignite. So I want to dive straight in because I certainly have so much that I want to get through. And you know what, as always, I truly believe that, just having so much to go through, I have no doubt that each and every one of you, has just kind of been in the mad rush, had so many things going on for the day. I know for lots of us, it's, final week of school holidays, everyone's kind of dropped the kids off. You've probably had crazy mornings and, kids back to school, or maybe the kids are home with you and you haven't had a second to just catch yourself for the day. So, I really just want to make sure that if you've been scrambling all morning, you probably haven't even had a second to just take a breath for the day. So, before we kick off today, I really just want to just help everyone just anchor into the call before we jump in, so that you can just truly be really present with me here today. So, I'm going to invite everyone, just a couple of quick little things that I just want to touch on. Firstly, I really want to invite everyone today. If you're able, I know there could be craziness in the background, but if you're able, have your cameras on. With your phones, put your phone on do not disturb. I always, when I'm getting on these calls, I put my phone in another room. I know how easy it is to pick it up and how much of a distraction it can be. But you've made a decision to be here today, right? You've made a decision to be here, to invest this time into yourself. Whether that's here live with us, or maybe you've made a decision, you've opened this, you're watching the recording. But like anything, if you have given yourself permission to get on this call today, I'm going to give you permission to really just be here and make sure that you give yourself this time to fully be present and immerse yourself into this. So part of that is going to be, setting yourself up so that you don't have distraction as best you can. Obviously, if the kids are in the background and you're on your lunch break and all the things, then, I love that you're here and you're doing this. But certainly if you're able to, I really just want to make sure that you're present and you're here and you're with me today. So before we jump in, as I said, it's probably been a crazy morning getting yourself here on the call. So I would love, if you're able, if you're not driving, if everyone could just really quickly just close down their eyes. And we're just going to take 5 big deep breaths together. In and out. 3, 4, and 5. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And we're going to kick off. So welcome to Reignite. I would love to just start with asking everyone and maybe you could drop this in the chat for me today, is when I say the word reignite, what does this word mean to you? Drop it in the chat for me. Rebirth. Oh, what a word. Light my own fire, to fire up, to rise. I love that. Get fired up, self-inspire. I love it. I love it. So reignite, if you were to look up the definition of what reignite actually means, it's to cause something to start burning again. So the key word here is again, right? And I say this because, that spark that you might feel has gone out. That flame that you once felt was burning so bright, that part of you that maybe used to feel alive and shining so bright, it still exists. It's not gone and it's still within you. right? And some of you might be able to relate to this right now in your life, and maybe in the past, and then maybe this might be something that you'll experience in the future, right? But that flame, that feeling, that fire, who can relate to that feeling that I'm talking about, right? That spark, that feeling of electricity, that magnetic feeling of feeling alive, right? If that doesn't feel like it's there right now, I actually really want to start the call by giving you just the reminder that, it's still there, right? But sometimes we actually just need a little bit of help to get that fire burning again, right? So my intention for today's call is, to really leave you feeling inspired and empowered, knowing how to reignite your own flame. And, the fact that this is available to you in any moment, and any time that, whether it's right now or any time that you might feel like you're going through, a tough season in life, right? Or you're going through even just the day-to-day grind, right? We're coming out of school holidays, right? There's the chaos of it, just feeling all too much, all too hard, or all too overwhelming. Put a number 1 in the chat if you can relate to what I'm talking about here, right? Who's pumped for school to be going back? Yeah. So at times, life can feel like you're driving with a foggy windshield. You're moving, you're driving, you're heading somewhere, but it's hard to see where you're going, right? And that's a very normal thing to go through in life. And, sometimes you might feel like you're driving a car and you've got this foggy windshield and you can't really see where you're going. And sometimes you might even feel like, pulling the car over and giving up. And, I want you to know that if you can resonate with any of this that I've shared so far, then you're absolutely in the right place. And the reason why I wanted to share this with you today and run through this particular, session is, I truly wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't learned how to reignite my own flame. And it's something that I still deal with and go through, daily, sometimes weekly, right? And if I'm honest with you, I can still, to this day, remember a time in my life, the exact moment in my life, when I knew that I needed to make a change. I can still remember it. It was only around 4 short years ago. And, I remember meeting up with one of my besties for a coffee on her lunch break. And, I remember rocking up to her work. I was a relatively new mum at the time. And I got to her work. We were sitting on the park bench out the front, right, with a takeaway cup of coffee. And I remember sitting on this park bench and she asked me these 3 words that honestly had been eating me alive. How are you? And it still draws emotion for me when I take myself back there, because I burst into tears. I was at a time in my life where I felt like I had just hit my rock bottom. I'd been pretending. I felt like I kind of had this wall up where I was pretending on the outside that everything was fine. But right behind the surface, was a woman who felt like she was falling apart. I felt like I was spiraling. I was in this like washing machine in life where I just felt like I kept getting these hits and these knockbacks, and I was just going round and round. And, everything honestly in my life was perfect on paper. But I was drowning in motherhood, and the flame that, once burnt so bright before I became a mum, it had gone out. And whilst I loved being a mum, I really did feel like I was just losing myself a little bit more every day. And I couldn't help but feel just this ache, and this longing and this wondering if this was it, and if this was, if it was all I was meant for now. Right. And I just remember feeling so lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a solution at the time. And I just remember feeling in this moment, on that park bench that, something had to change. And if nothing changed, nothing changed, right? And I knew if I didn't change something, something was going to break. And I knew that that was probably going to be me. Who else has had their park bench moment? Who else has had a time in their life where they can resonate with that feeling of just not knowing, like just it can't, like there's got to be another way, right? Let me know in the chat. I'd love, everyone to just really be here and throw your participation and give as much as you can to today's call, because I'm going to feed off your energy. What you're giving, I'm going to meet you there, right? And I'm going to feed off your energy and what you give here. So please just make sure you're using that chat. So, I guess what I've learned in my journey here and what I'm going to help you uncover today, is that in the darkest of moments, there can come the brightest of opportunities if we're prepared to see them. And, this has been a concept. It's become a concept, and I'm going to share with you all today, some of the exact tools, and I'm going to give you some of these tools that have really helped me not only change my life, but have helped, help me keep going in some of the hardest days and in different seasons, some harder than others, some small, some big, right? But they've kept me going. These tools that I'm going to give you, learning how to reignite this spark, have truly kept me going in some of the days that, I've honestly just wanted to give up. And I'm going to get a little raw, real, and vulnerable inside this space today, because if I'm honest, I get questions all the time, and I get messages in my inbox all the time from women inside our team and inside this space, inside our business, of women saying, how do you do it? You're amazing. You've always got your shit together. You're killing it. Right? And whilst there are times that I am killing it and crushing it, and yes, I feel like I do have it all together. And there's been massive seasons in my business where it has been easier to move. There's been momentum, right? And, there's no doubt that I've been able to create some massive success in this business, right? I hit the pinnacle position in the company in my first 2.5 years from starting, built a global team of over 300 women. And in the past 12 months alone, whilst it's been, my most successful year in business, achieving #1 in Australia, Partner of the Year, multiple promotions and club goals. We've hit our first 7-figure year in sales. And on top of that, I've also recently helped 2 of the women in my team hit that top position in NMD. So there's no doubt that I've created a lot of success. And in the last 12 months, a lot of that is, has manifested for me. But in the last 12 months, it's also been incredibly hard. And it hasn't been an easy journey. And in particular, in the last 18 months of my life, it's probably been the most challenging yet. And so there's just been this dance of pure duality in the highest of highs and also the lowest of lows. In the last 18 months, becoming a mum of 2 with no family support, health challenges that, have just been one after the other, hospital visits, both of my kids both hospitalized and needing surgery within weeks of each other. And then at the start of last year, had the devastation of very suddenly losing my dad, who was my rock and my biggest cheerleader in life. I'm going to try and do this call today without too much emotion. Okay. But honestly, I share this with you because I've had more face down moments in the last 12 months than I can count. And there's truly one mantra that I literally live by, and I want to share it with you today. And, it's something that my dad had always taught me. And it was, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. What matters is that you keep getting back up. Right. And in leadership, and as a woman who has navigated some massive challenge in my life, my mission, I've never lost sight of my mission and my vision and my purpose. And so as a leader, who is here to make an impact in the lives of others, I truly believe that, we go through what we go through so that we can also draw the lessons to pass on and teach our wisdom to those that, we're here to serve. So anyone who may be feeling that life lately has been, feeling heavy, or you might have forgotten who you are a little bit, or you maybe have just lost a little bit of sight lately of where you're going. Right? Let me know if you can relate to this and if this is landing for you today. Because if that's you, you're not broken. You are not broken. And you're certainly not alone. And so many of us as women can feel this way because we've been conditioned, right, to put ourselves last. And so maybe, maybe lately you've been feeling like you have lost a little bit of a part of yourself. You've fallen behind, right, on something that you love, or you haven't been showing up in your business in the way that you used to. A big one right now is it's like, it's the 29th of January and it's like people feel that it's like so much of the year's already gone. Who can relate to that one? It's like, oh my God, everyone else is killing it and smashing it and doing all these things. Bali, like everyone's on it, smashing it for Bali, and I'm all the way back here and I haven't even started yet. Right? I haven't done anything yet. And you feel like you're behind. And then you feel this pressure and you put yourself in this pressure cooker and you put yourself in this place where you're feeling this feeling. And then we build on that feeling and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse because we stay stuck in this space. Right? So, or maybe you are going through a huge challenging season in life right now, personally, right? But I want to just talk about challenge firstly. Have you ever seen like a forest after a wildfire, right? At first glance, if you've seen this huge forest get totally wiped out by wildfire, at first glance, it can feel and look like total devastation, right? But what most people don't see and don't realize is that, wildfires, they can actually renew. They can renew the soil, they clear out what no longer serves, right, the ecosystem, and makes way for new, stronger growth. And so challenges in life, they are like that, right? They can feel destructive and, and they can feel like everything's falling apart, but they can actually, and I only can share this from in hindsight, right? But they can truly only, clear space for something so much better. And, I can share a little story. It was only 18 months ago when I remember feeling this way when, I had my second son, and I really struggled, trying to get back into business. I really struggled to find my feet again. I was still stuck in this mindset that was no longer serving me, where, I had to do more. I had to have more, right? I couldn't switch off. I felt like I was just obsessed, but I wasn't getting anywhere. I felt like I had to be on all of the time, show up. And I felt this feeling of like chasing myself, right? Who can relate to that feeling? But deep down, I wasn't in this season of wanting to show up in that way, but I felt like I had to. Where deep down, I was burnt out. I was exhausting myself, and I needed to just be mum. We were in and out of hospital, dealing with challenges with my little man for months, and it felt like personally my world was literally falling apart. And the more that I was pushing, the more I felt like I was failing. Right. But looking back, I can see how that season became the catalyst for some of the most profound change and the most profound growth, and the lessons that now help me show up in my business. Right. Because at the time, it forced me to stop. It forced me to, reevaluate and soften and surrender and rebuild in a way and show up in my business in a way that, felt truer to who I am. And, I know when you're in the middle of it, it can feel really hard and overwhelming, and it's difficult to see that there's anything good coming out of it, right? And you might even feel like giving up, and it's normal and it's okay. It's okay to feel that way, because everyone is going to face seasons. Everyone is going to face challenge, and everyone, no one escapes the duality in life. So, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human, right? And so what if instead of, seeing these moments as the end of the road, we started to see them as turning points, right? Because in every breakdown that I've had, in not just in my career here, but in life, has always come a huge breakthrough, has always come a big breakthrough, but you can't see it at the time. Right? And it's only once you go through it, and then another and another, that you actually can start to look back and see that I always come out the other end. Put a number 2 in the chat. I want you to just take a moment to think about a time that you have come out the other side of a really challenging time in your life. Right. So when you do that, you create evidence that you can come out the other side. And then put a number 1 in the chat if you felt that it it forced change and it forced evolution, right? It's like the butterfly, right? It's like the caterpillar that goes into the cocoon that comes out as the beautiful butterfly, right? I've read that book, So the Hungry Caterpillar, on repeat lately with my little man. And I just picture that, right? So I want to share this because, challenge is normal, okay? And you're not alone. So today, I really just want to go through and take you through, and I'm going to empower you with the tools to call yourself forward in the moments when you're feeling like it's too hard and in the moments when you're feeling like you're not on your A game, because I have learnt that in any moment we can access a better, higher version of ourselves. So, now that I guess we have that little bit of awareness that our challenges are inevitable, we're not alone in the struggles. And I've obviously spoken a little bit about, reigniting your spark. The question, I know that I can hear still so many of you saying is, it's like, Kirst, I hear you. I know you're talking about your challenge, but this is different. My challenge really is challenging. My hard really is hard. Yeah. And I can really relate to this, right? I hear you in this. Trust me, because, I have spent a lot of time fighting for my own limitations and fighting for my place in the mud. Let that land, right? And some of this might be really hard to hear. And it was for me, because, it was easier to stay stuck in the struggle and stuck in the pity party. And there's been so many times in my life where I've chosen to stay there, but that's the key word, chosen. And I want to remind you that, this conversation can really be the catalyst for change. And I want to remind you that you always have a choice. And a new version of you is available in any moment, right? You are that powerful. You can go from feeling so much resistance. You can go from feeling, so much struggle and suffer. And then with some of these tools that I'm going to teach you today and empower you with, you can shift and you can step forward out of it. I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear this next line and write this one down. What you are not changing, you're choosing. What you are not changing in your life, you are choosing. So you get to choose differently, right? And 4 years ago, these were some of the things that I started to do. I started to choose differently. And in every challenging moment in the last 4 years in my career here, and I've shared some of those big, big challenges with you, how I've led myself forward is by simply starting with a decision to choose differently. And so who's making a decision today to choose differently? Who's drawing a line in the sand today to choose differently? And I'm going to give you some and take you through a 4-step framework on how I choose different and some of the exact tools that I use on how I move myself forward so that you can too. Who would love to learn some of those with me today? Put a number 1 in the chat so I know. Awesome. So before I take you through some of these tips and some of this framework to help you reignite, right, this spark and move from overwhelm to alignment, okay, I want to start by firstly bringing a little bit of awareness to some of the things, the actions, the behaviors that are currently keeping you stuck. And what I do this because I think it's really powerful to have awareness around it, because sometimes, if I'm honest, I see people thinking that to get out of, this feeling of overwhelm and, procrastination and self-doubt and resistance, whatever it is that you're resisting, right? That we have to go on this like big deep dive on, where it came from and, life and my childhood and all of the things, right? And we feel like we have to go on this big deep discovery. And whilst I feel like there is a place for that, sometimes, if I'm honest, your awareness is all you need. The awareness of the habits and the behaviors that are playing out in life to then actually cause change. When you're willing to have awareness and look in the mirror at the things that are keeping you stuck, sometimes that awareness is the highest form of self-care, because we know we're doing it and it's not serving us. And what you're not changing, you're choosing. So you either choose this or we change and we choose differently. So I'm going to share some of the things that I really truly believe are keeping a lot of us stuck, right? And I share from also experience, right? I really truly just teach from my experience, my wisdom here, not from a textbook, right? So I'm right here with you, okay? But the first one is comparison, right? And comparing yourself to others. And a big one here, is when we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, we start to believe that, that our challenge, that our challenges are worse, right? And that they have it easier. Okay. It can give you this illusion that, it's harder for you and making change is hard for you. And it's keeping you swirling in this self-pity, right? We're always on social media. We're always scrolling. Like, think about the ways in life, like, where are you comparing? Right? It's just an illusion. And comparison, what's the quote? I love this saying that comparison is the thief of all joy. Write that down. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Right? Who gets any, like, how does comparing yourself to others serve you, right? For majority of the time, it doesn't, unless it's calling you forward and you feel that you're being inspired by it, right? That's the only time that I would say allow that in your life, right? But if it's not, and if you're comparing to others and looking at others and watching others, and it's making you feel less than, it's detracting your energy, then it's got to stop, right? It's got to stop. And it's important to make sure that we're also not comparing our day one to somebody else's day 107, day 721, right? Because we're all at different phases in our journey, and each of us are going to walk different paths here. So it's impossible to compare, yourself to somebody else who has gone through, such different days ahead of what you're about to go through too, right? And so, that's a big one, right? It could be on social media, it could be inside this team, it could be inside this space, right? But, again, for me, when I was stuck in my pity party, when I was stuck playing this, blame game for everything that was not working out in my life and all of my struggle, right? It was, little things like just being on social media and letting everybody take me out of the game. Comparison was taking me out of the game, right? So the second one is focusing on everything that's not working out instead of focusing on the things that are, right? It's like the law of attraction, okay? And what we focus on expands. What we focus on expands. So, if you're focusing on everything that's not working out for you, guess what you're going to get? Hate to break it to you, but you are going to get more of it. And then guess what's going to happen? The load gets heavier, right? You stay in this. Who can relate to this, where you feel like you're just getting hit after hit, right? And you just can't, like, you're just barely getting your head above the water, right? You're just getting more negative things thrown your way, right? What if it was the opposite? Who can relate to it being the opposite, where there's times in your life where you just feel like, wow, everything's just working out for me right now. There's just so many good things happening. And, there's just you oozing this positivity, and it just feels like life is filled with so much ease, right? When we're focusing on that, we're going to get more of that too. So, a big one that just keeps us stuck and keeps us like handcuffed to the struggles and stuck in overwhelm is when, in life, we're looking, like a big one in this business too, is, when we're looking and we're focusing on, everything that's not working out, maybe right now maybe it's Bali, maybe you've started the year, you had this big goal and you're feeling like you're not on track, or you're working towards a promotion or whatever. And we're playing comparison. So we feel like everyone else is doing well and you're not, right? And we're looking down, right? We're feeling frustrated at where we are. We're frustrated at what's not going our way, what's not working out, what we're not doing, what results we're not getting, right? And we're looking sideways at everybody else and what everybody else is doing, right? And feeling this whiplash, okay? And comparison and frustration. And then what we're also doing is we're looking back. We're looking back at where we were and what I used to do and how easy it used to be and when I was, right? And, maybe I hit this promotion and I did this thing and why can't I now? And what's not working out for me? And I used to be in so much momentum and it was easier back then. It was easier in the old system, blah, 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 right? We're looking back. Who can relate to that? Okay. Again, where are we not looking? Up and forward, right? Up and forward. And this one kept me stuck for a long time. Kept me stuck for a long time. And in every challenge, I can remember exactly like in each of these big, heavy milestones and challenges that I've faced, and even in the small times, right? Where it's like, oh, school holidays and it's January and I feel like I haven't kicked off my year where, how I should be. Awareness, catching myself. Where am I looking? I'm looking down. I'm frustrated. Everyone else is smashing it, the leaderboard, and oh, poor me, and why not me? Right? Okay. All you need to do is bring awareness here and do what? Eyes up and physically eyes up, your vision, your goals, right? And, move forward. It's like, if you think about the horse races, right? Why do the horses have the blinkers on, right? The blinders that the horses wear on their heads when they're in a race? Can you imagine if they didn't have that and they were running the race and they were looking at the other horses? What would happen? They would crash, right? It would be mayhem. All they can see is where they're going. All they can see is where they're going. They're not looking at any of the other horses. They're just running their own race. So who here today needs to just put the blinders on and stop looking left, right, back, and down and actually just physically start looking up? Do you have your goals in front of you? For me, it's like this, like I'm a whiteboard girl, even that, right? It's all the goals in front of me. It's my vision. It's my, what I'm working towards. What's the goalpost for you right now? When was the last time you really sat and thought about why did you say yes to this? And what are your goals and what are you working towards? Right? Have you just simply lost sight in that? Okay, the next one, it's what we consume, right? What we consume. What are we consuming? So I'm going to speak about a few things here because when I say the word consume, like, yep, sure, there's food is one part of this, right? And I know when I'm stuck in this spiraling pity party, okay, right? I can tell you right away, like pillar number one, it's like, well, what's my health like? Okay. What kind of food are we consuming? Are we eating really depleting, sluggish, low vibe foods that's making you stay stuck in this feeling? Because it's a feeling, right? We're adding to it. Again, this self-awareness can help you call you forward today. Okay. So the foods we eat, what are we consuming? Low vibe things, the food we're eating, right? Depleting, sluggish, low vibe food. Okay. What are you consuming on your phone? Are you scrolling mindlessly? Yeah. Are you stuck? Is it in the morning, the first thing you're doing is waking up and scrolling the phone, right? And just being like slammed with comparison, right? We're straight into that feeling of what everybody else is doing. And we instantly are feeling that everyone else's life is amazing. And I don't, what's wrong with me? And it looks like they've got their shit together. And she's already done her post for the day. And oh, I better get something up. And then you're looking at everybody else's. And now I'm frustrated and now I'm scrambling and I've made it worse. Right? I hope this is learning, right? I'm speaking from experience here too, yeah, because I've done this. Okay. So again, what are we consuming? What are we scrolling? What are we looking at? Okay. Are we just letting hours fly by where we're just scrolling and, watching Netflix and binging and eating and doing all these things that actually, are giving us that low vibe energy and keeping us stuck in this feeling of frustration, right? What conversations are we entertaining? Are we, judging and complaining and constantly complaining, right? I'm going to give you an example actually of a big one with this, and a time of my life where this was before I said yes to this business. It was actually at the time, right, when I said yes to this business. If you think about it, was 4 years ago. Okay. Not only was I a new mom and I shared my story around how I was feeling at the time, but what else was going on 4 years ago? Does anyone remember? Crazy to think 4 years, right? I live in Melbourne. So we had like, I mean, everyone obviously has, their own experiences with Melbourne, but we were literally locked down for 18 months. Our shopping centers were closed for 14 months. We were not allowed out of our house. We weren't allowed to go 5 kilometers from our house for over a year. You weren't allowed people in your home. Like, I would go to Aldi. We were allowed to go to the supermarket once a day if it was like, you had restrictions. It was like supermarket, chemist. There was like a number of shops that were open. And I went to Aldi for my window shopping for my retail therapy. I didn't do online shopping because I was like, I'm going to go to Aldi every day and do my shopping every day just so I could physically get out of my house for some like sanity check, right? But my point is here where I'm digressing. But in that time, it was like this, everyone was like watching the news, waiting for the updates. Do you guys remember it was like the countdown of like, how many people and how many things and how many more days in lockdown? And then you'd get the news update and it was like, we're supposed to be coming out of lockdown and then we'd be in lockdown for another month. And like, it was horrendous, right? And so in that time, as I'm sure everyone can relate to, right? The only conversations that I was having was really negative conversations. Like every single phone call was like stressing and worry and, how much this sucks and this is bullshit and blah, blah, blah. It was so like, that was literally it. Staring at the news, right? Stuck in the house. Only conversations were around it. So what was I consuming every day? And this was a big part of like where I started to spiral in life, right? And so for me, I remember when I made this decision sitting on that park bench 4 years ago, that story I shared with you, it was actually when I decided to step into this space. And a big part of my decision was I stopped. So a big part of what I stopped consuming to reignite my spark and find myself again was I stopped watching the news. I stopped watching those countdowns. I stopped complaining to my friends, even though I wanted to, even though I hated it, even though it sucked, right? I just stopped having those conversations. I started to try and lean into some positive things. I'm going to give you some tools later. And this is exactly what I did. The steps I'm going to give you in a moment of my tools on how I do this and some of the practical things. So you've got some things that you can physically do. Okay. It was like the podcast. It was the health focus, all these things, right? I stopped consuming the negativity and I started to just have this awareness around it. And it was amazing how quickly things started to shift, right? So just without going on too much there, the fourth one here, okay, is playing the victim and the blame game, right? Playing the victim, blaming external circumstances, people, past events for your struggles, right? They can keep you stuck because what's happening is you pass the responsibility onto someone or something else external of you so that you take no responsibility, which essentially makes you powerless to create change, right? When you're blaming other things that are external of you, you're giving your power away. You're literally deciding that this is not my fault and I have no power over this and we are not changing, we're choosing, right? You're choosing to stay in that because you have no power over the change. Okay. So ladies, your struggles, they're part of your story, but they are not you. They are not you. They don't define you, right? You may not be able to control what happens to you, right? Like the lockdown example, okay? But you can always control how you respond. You can focus on what you can do, okay? Whereas a lot of us get stuck focusing on all the things that we can't do. And there's a very, very big energetic difference, yeah, between the two. So now what I would love to do is give you some of these tools. Who would love me to share with you some practical things that I've been able to do over these years that have kind of, become my tool belt, right? These things are on my tool belt now so that when I'm going through struggle or it's feeling heavy or I'm stuck in overwhelm or, navigating a really difficult, heavy time in my life, these are the things that I turn to, right? And so the more things, like as time goes on, I've added more and more things to my tool belt. 4 years ago, there wasn't very many, right? But who would love for me to share with you? Let me know in the chat, some of these tools that have really helped me to find and reignite this spark so that they could potentially help you too. Awesome. Awesome. So there's really 4 pillars, okay? And the 4 pillars that I'm going to teach, right, and give you some strategies around our health, growth, right, our mindset. Sorry, I'm just going to ask if everyone could just pop themselves on mute if you're not already. That would be amazing. Thank you. So health, growth, and mindset, okay? I'm going to talk about passion and connection and fun. And then, business, career, and, I'll touch on obviously Juice Plus being part of that, because for me, that is, business and career is in that space. You might have other things that you do as well. But these habits, right? Start small. As I said, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. This isn't about me giving you 20 different strategies and 20 different things and you feeling like it needs to be all or nothing, right? This isn't about adding to the overwhelm and adding to the to-do list, okay? But different things, you might be able to use in different times. So pick one, right? It's not about perfection, but becoming a self-led woman and learning to reignite your spark and finding this and igniting that flame, it's always available to you, right? We focus on progress, not perfection. Okay. And when you choose that to lean into the light, and out of the dark, you've got the ability to do that in any moment, right? So the first that I want to touch on is just health, right? For me, in any challenging time, the first thing that I'm looking at is, well, what's my health like right now? It's pillar number 1. It is literally the catalyst. Your physical health is the foundation, and your emotional health, but your health is the foundation of everything else. When your body feels good, your mind becomes clearer and your energy expands, right? So for me, this is always step 1. And what I love about being part of this business is that, we have this at our fingertips. It's literally the first step that I start with every time, right? Even right now, coming into the school's about to go back. I'm like, we've been on holidays and it's been crazy and it's just been such a wild time. There's been so much happening behind the scenes. Step 1 for me to lead my way back and find that like fire for the year and really turn things on is my health. Okay. So, a different handful of things, it's what you're eating, right? Are you eating really depleting foods, or are you choosing energizing foods? Have you made your smoothie, right? Or are you going to drive through, right? You've got these choices. Are you reaching for the sugars and the soft drinks, or is today the day that you're like, no more? Okay, no more. I'm choosing. I had to do this, because you just get, little lazy habits start to creep in, right? Step 1, I'm making these swaps. I'm doing my thing, right? I'm having my capsules every day. I'm getting out for movement, right? Movement is a big one for me. This is number 1 for me, actually, if I'm honest. It's probably my number 1 go-to, moving my body every single day, right? It's energizing. Energy produces energy. I used to feel that I was way too tired to work out. I'm too tired. I'm exhausted. I don't have the energy to move out, to work out. Can't be bothered. I just want to lie on the couch. I'm too tired. Making this change, it blew my mind at how much more energy I get when I move. Now, it doesn't need to be, you might not have the energy to go and do the half an hour or the hour gym session or whatever, but get outside for a walk in fresh air, right? Oh, just moving your body and making a decision to actually look after yourself and take care of yourself. Energy produces energy, right? How can you nourish yourself today to feel your best? Your health, it's like charging your phone, right? If you're running on a 5% battery, it doesn't matter how many apps you have open, you're going to crash, right? So you need to prioritize recharging your battery, okay? The second one, it's growth and mindset, right? I want to just speak into this for a minute and give you some tools and tips around here. Okay. Your mind can be your biggest ally or your worst enemy. It just depends how you train it, right? Think about how many thoughts we have every single day. Hundreds of thousands of thoughts every single day. What do we as humans think about the most? What are we thinking about the most? Write it in the chat. Things we need to do. Yep. what we're doing next, what we're eating. Yes. We're thinking about ourselves is my point. We are thinking about ourselves, right? And we have hundreds of thousands of thoughts every single day. So what are those thoughts that you're choosing? How many of them, right? How conscious are we around the thoughts? How many of them are negative, complaining, all the things not working out? Remember what we spoke about before? This is a choice. You've got to train it, right? I learned how to retrain my brain and reprogram it, right? And sometimes when there's challenge, it can slip back. So one of the fastest things, okay, I'm going to commend you for being on this call today. This is one of the best things that you can possibly do is put yourself in places and spaces and get things in your ears, right? Which we all have access to, whether it's these calls or, audibles and podcasts and books and all these things. There is so much free mindset content at your fingertips every day. There is no excuse. To me, it's like, what am I listening to every day? 5 minutes can shift everything. Getting an audio, these are some, again, success leaves clues here. I'm giving you what I do, right? I'm giving you what I do, okay? It's podcasts. If I go back to that time when I was 4 years ago, right? How did I move from that park bench moment where I was living life in that washing machine, feeling lost as a mum, spiraling and drowning in motherhood, right? Wanting to find myself again, feeling like that flame had gone out. How did I find it again? What shifted? One of the first things that I started to do, I remember I said about the lockdown, I turned off the news. The simple swap I made was I started listening to podcasts. So every single day I started to go for a walk in the morning with a podcast in my ear. That's how I started my day, right? I'd take my little man out in the pram for our walk. So there was movement and there was mindset every day. Then I'd make my smoothie, right? Choosing these choices. It was a choice. I had to train myself to do this. It wasn't easy at the time, but guess what? Now I don't even think twice, right? So podcasts in my ears, personal development, right? You've got access to these calls every single week. Who already feels like they felt a shift just simply being on this call? Who already feels like they needed to be here today and has felt a shift in their life, right? So, often when we're going through challenge, we choose to not show up for these things, right? But when you're close, it's like being close to the fire. The closer you are to the fire, right? The more you start, the hotter it is, the warmer you feel, right? And the further away you are from that fire, if it's freezing cold, guess what? It's really cold out here. So when you're not coming to team trainings, you're not coming to these calls, you're not listening to the podcast, you're not listening to the audio books, and then life's feeling hard, but you're not choosing this, it's going to get colder. And that fire can start to go out. You think about a campfire that gets left unattended. It starts to fizzle out, right? You just need to get back close to the fire, right? So another one is, spirituality, meditation. Okay. For me, this has become a non-negotiable, right? It's a daily non-negotiable. And this was hard at first. It wasn't easy for me. Calming my mind, fuck, it was crazy. It's a monkey mind in there, right? It was not easy. Okay. I could not meditate. This did not come naturally for me. I was like, I'm meditating, but all I'm thinking about is the gazillion things that I've got to do. Right. But I started with, like guided meditations, right? I can send you some of these. Okay. Some of my favorites, even just to rattle off a couple while I'm here. I might even try and put some in the chat actually. Would you guys like a couple of my favorite quick meditations? Put a number 1 in the chat if yes. And I'll drop a couple in the chat. Awesome. So these were where I started, right? Really simple. I'm going to give you 2 of my faves actually. Okay, here we go. So you can literally just save these. I've just simply got them saved in my phone. Okay. Here we go. There's a 5-minute and a 10-minute. These are 2 of my go-tos. There you go. Cool. And these are 2 of my go-tos that I literally just get on, right? It can take 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all it takes to literally shift your entire energy, to calm your monkey mind, to find some, some groundedness in your day, right? So that became like just a mindfulness practice. Spend 5 minutes in stillness daily, right? Meditate, breathe, journal. Okay. Um, that was something that I did. So passion, connection, fun. The next space here I just want to talk about is just, bringing more joy into your day, right? How can you bring more joy? How can you, bring a bit more playfulness? And, even with business, like what are the things that light you up in your business? What are the things that you love to do? Focus on doing those things, right? Rather than all the things that you feel like you should be doing. If it's just one thing that you can do right now to find that flow and that ease again, just pick something that really just lights you up, right? And then the fourth pillar is business, career, juice plus, right? Whatever it is. Okay. You're all obviously inside this space. I'm going to speak to that because, I think it's important to touch on this because at times, when life's feeling heavy and you're in a place of resistance, like this can be the first thing that people put down, right? And I've been there. Becomes the kind of too hard basket, right? But for me, what I've realized is, and where I have so much gratitude for our business is I've realized that our business, it's the light, right? It's the light. This gives me energy, what we do, right? And, I've been able to turn the light away from myself and onto others. And if I'm really honest, um, one of the fastest ways that I've learned how to heal myself is through getting lost in the service of helping others. There have been some big times in my life, particularly in the last 12 months. I know I shared a little bit about what's been going on behind the scenes for me. And, there have been many times that I haven't known how to show up for myself. I haven't wanted to be seen. I haven't wanted to, share on social media. And I haven't known how to find my way back in here in some really big times. But what I have been able to do is show up for others. And you know what? Sometimes all it takes is getting on one call, right? Getting on one call with a team member, getting on one call with somebody that wants to create change and them sharing their story, right? For me to just feel like, oh, I needed that. So sometimes you need it and other times it needs you, right? And so for me, this business, it's truly gotten me through some of the darkest days. It's been such a beautiful, positive, and healthy distraction. So lean in for that community, stay close to the fire, right? Lean into your uplines and your mentors and, the people that are going to call you forward and not just validate your problems, right? Um, and then I guess it's just, for me, a big part of that is just knowing that, how much I've been able to reignite my own spark has come from, so many layers of this business and what we have here. And I just feel so honored and lucky that this business ticks a lot of those boxes and a lot of those pillars, doesn't it? When you think about health, when you think about our mission, our programs, our products, the community and the connection, the personal growth that we get here, the sisterhood, having something outside of mum life, the conferences, the social events, the purpose, making an impact. This business is energizing. It's not depleting, right? So when you choose to lean into it in the times that it's feeling hard, it's actually especially in the times when it's feeling hard, right? When it's feeling hard, but you choose to show up anyway, what happens is you're choosing you. And when you choose you, you start to create this evidence within yourself, just like I have, that you can move no matter what. You can move out of the dark into the light, and you can have both. Both the dark and the light can coexist. And I know that firsthand, right? And the more you keep choosing it, the easier it gets. So sometimes it's not about, ignoring the challenge and the heaviness and what you're going through. It's actually about having compassion and connection for yourself of what you're going through, but also finding some calm courage that you can, and it's okay to take steps to move forward. And you can have both. You can have both. So I share this because you have the power. And I want to ask you, what if you've had the power all along? What if all you simply need to do is stop giving your power to everything that's outside of you that's currently holding you hostage, right? You're plugging your power into everybody else. What if you simply just needed to unplug from others and other things and plug back into you? What if you chose to just charge yourself? Put the power back into you, right? You have everything that you need inside of you to make that happen. What if it wasn't about doing more, but about getting really intentional with the things that really matter? Because that light is within you already. I want you to give you an example around, a lighthouse. I want you to picture a lighthouse. Okay. The lighthouse, it stands really tall. It's up on a rocky shore. It gets battered by storms and, it's surrounded by all the crashing waves. But no matter how wild the sea gets, the lighthouse doesn't chase the ships or the storms or the waves. It doesn't bend. It doesn't break. It stays steady, shining its light, guiding others safely to the shore. The lighthouse doesn't question its role or dim its light. It knows exactly what it's meant to do, and it stands firm no matter what. So when you think about your life, how often are you letting those waves pull you in every direction? Every time they're crashing against you. Maybe you're trying to please everyone, keep up with the demands, the crazy to-do lists, and chasing every expectation that people have placed on you, right? And you feel like you're in survival mode, being tossed around, feeling like you're literally living life in a washing machine, surrounded and just tossed around by the chaos against you. What if instead of being swept away by the storms, you became the lighthouse? What if you learned to stand steady and let your inner wisdom guide you no matter what's happening around you? Because the chaos, it's external. The storms, they're the chaos. The stress, the opinions of others, they're all outside of you. They're not who you are. And the first step is realizing that external chaos, you don't have to let that chaos control you and your inner peace, right? And there was a time in my life when I did feel really lost, right? I was trying to keep up with everybody else's expectations. And, I felt like it was like I was a ship that was just caught up in the storm, and I was exhausted and I was overwhelmed. And it wasn't until I stopped and asked myself, what do I want? And then I started to use these tools and use these practices and do these things to find my own groundedness every day. So anytime life feels like you're in a washing machine and you're getting thrown around and there's that whiplash, I return to that place of groundedness, plug back into me. Health, growth, mindset, right? Connection, my business that lights me up so much. And so as we wrap up today, I really just want to leave you with this, that you have everything you need inside you to reignite your spark and to step into that version of yourself that you've been longing to become. The challenges that you've faced, the moments where, whether in the past or right now, you felt lost, not right now anymore, actually, because we're drawing a line in the sand, right? But in those moments where you have felt lost or stuck, they weren't the end of the story, right? They're simply the chapters that built the strength, the resilience, and your ability to rise. And you're not here by accident. You haven't gotten onto this call today by accident. You're here because you're ready. You're here because you're choosing you, right? And you're ready to trust yourself, to step into your power and to lead yourself with that calmness, that clarity, that courage. So today I challenge you, don't let the fire that we've lit here stay here. Take it with you and fan the flames, right? By taking action when you get off this call. And whether that's in your health, your mindset, your relationships, your business, commit to showing up for yourself, even if in the smallest of ways, because it's the small, consistent steps that transform lives. And remember, this is your journey. You get to decide how it unfolds. So let this, I hope that, you let this be the moment today that you look back and say, that was the call when everything changed. That was the moment when everything changed for me. You're capable, you're worthy, and you're so much more powerful than you know. So go out there and shine your light because the world is waiting for you. Have the best day, ladies. Bye.